This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, so last session we were discussing about some Terraform code, right? So let's continue the same thing. Okay, so I will go to 3. All right, so what we were making yesterday is, I think, the AMI part. So we're trying to make the AMI, and it was, yeah, so we were just looking into that. Okay, let's go into the taking the same part again. So the front end AMI creation. So yesterday we launched this particular instance. So let's start it back again. And our pipeline code. So what we're actually telling. So here Terraform AMI. So we're saying that so we just take this image and we go with the instance, and after that we run this particular so the shell script, and and it's supposed to make the image. But where are we yesterday? So let's take a look into the pipeline, because the pipeline is the one which is actually running the things. And so the front end, the AMI part is actually went on to a failure. Okay, the AMI. What was the failure? So it's actually trying to connect. It's actually failing with, so connection failure to the 22 port. Why it is making that? Because it doesn't have any kind of a security group connection to there. Okay, so that's where what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with a security group creation. Okay, so how do I make the security group creation is, let's go and try to see that. So AWS underscore security group underscore security underscore group Terraform. If I just go there, and it will show me the documentation, some example. So I will just take this and put it here. So to this instance, I need to attach the security group. I just don't want to give this. So here allow var dot component hyphen AMI hyphen SG. Basically, this is for this one, and the same name I'll take it here and put it here. The same name, put it here. Tags also. Yeah. So this is one. And what all I want to allow. So here, which ports I want to allow. So I need to take that up. And so here, this is for just SSH. And SSH port number is 22. Starting range is 22. Ending range is also 22. That means only one port. And to whom you want to allow, to the internet I want to allow. So that's where I want to say that 0.0.0.0 by 0. Okay. And egress, you add it or you don't add it. So you're just opening everything. So that's the idea. So 0 means, so it's actually opening all the ports, outgoing traffic. Okay. This is what I want. And at the same time, I want to take this instance and I want to attach this particular instance also, right? So VPC underscore security group IDs is equal to, it's a list. That means you can add multiple security groups, but I'll add one which I have right now. So which is allow SSH. So dot allow hyphen SSH dot ID. Okay, so this is what the additional information I'm adding it now. Now I'm pushing the code. So let's go and create a release and we'll see. And then let a release on this environment, create it. So now you can see the connected message, right? So you can see this connected message. So now after that, it is trying to install the commands one by one. So make install, install make. And after that, it is trying to run the shell script. So set up front-end component, installing the Nginx, download artifacts, update Nginx, everything is been done. And the AMI, okay, so the server and its installation part is done. The server and its installation part is done. Okay, cool. So once after this is done, so then what I have to do is I have to go with creating an AMI. How do I create an AMI? Let's look into the resources. I want to make AMI search. If I search for AMI, so you're getting a lot of resources in API gateway. I don't want it. API gateway EC2, I want it. Now here, what I want here is, so AWS underscore AMI to make an AMI, but actually what I want to make is AWS underscore AMI from instance. Okay, so AWS AMI from instance. So actually it is going to create an AMI from the given instance. So I'm going to take this and put it here. All right, so which is actually going to be is, so this is again var dot component. And what is the instance ID? How do you get the instance ID? So AWS underscore instance dot this one dot ID. Okay, you give the AMI instance ID, it make the AMI. But actually, technically talking about, so the instance will be created and the AMI will be created because there is a dependency. You're marking the dependency here, right? So that means, so the instance ID, once after the instance created, it immediately starts the AMI. No, actually, once after that is done, so then what it has to do is it has to execute this provisioner, then only you have to run this. Okay, so that means I want to mark this as a dependency. So I want to enforce the dependency now. So how can I do that? So we already discussed about this. So how to do it is just by going with some depends on option. So you can just mark a chain on your own also. Depends on, so which you want to depends on null resource only. Okay, so actually it depends upon null resource provisional. Okay, so once after this is done, then only the AMI will happen. All right, so now the AMI will be happening. So let's take a let's take a look. Yeah, I think all fine. So here I'll make one more release on the same one. Create a release. So the AMI is getting created. So you can just take a look here. So the AMI would be coming up. See this? The AMI is actually getting created. What are the name you give? Once after this AMI is done, so we need to do some tricky work actually here. So we'll see. Okay, so but first let the AMI completes. Cool. So the AMI is done. Okay. Now the whole tricky part here is I don't want this instance anymore, isn't it? So the AMI is ready here. Refresh. The AMI is available. Now this instance is no more needed. Okay. So this instance need to be deleted, and even that security group need to be deleted. So these two parts are not really needed. I want to delete them. And how do I delete them? So because I launched with Terraforms, if I do Terraform destroy, it actually destroys that. And the problem with the Terraform destroy is it destroys the AMI also. Okay, so now the challenge, little challenge, not challenge basically. So now the tricky logic, how do you make it is important thing. Okay, that's it, nothing more than that. Okay, if you take a packet software, automatically it launches the instance, it makes the AMI, and it deletes the instance automatically out of box. You don't have to do anything at all in special. So just comes up, creates an instance, and set up all your scripts, convert that into an AMI, and delete all it's been provisioned. Okay, and the AMI will be there. But now, since we are going with the Terraform, so now if I say that I want to do a Terraform destroy, it destroys the AMI also. Okay, so but I should not have the destroy AMI, but the remaining pieces want to get destroyed. Now how do I do that? Okay, how do I do that? So Terraform direct options, is there anything? So I will take a look. Terraform lifecycle phases. Okay, we'll see lifecycle. Okay, so a policy on not lifecycle policy. Terraform lifecycle phases, I would say. So Terraform, yeah, resource lifecycle. Now here, so there is a certain. Yeah, the lifecycle meta argument. Yeah, there is a one. Yeah, so here there are certain things you can mention. So lifecycle is an additional keyword which you can add to the resource. Okay, and so what is the lifecycle is telling is create before destroy. Now what happens is sometimes, sometimes actually you mark for some update in the Terraform code, it will go and destroy that particular resource and recreate the resource. Now while recreating the resource, what it is telling is first create before destroy. So what is the default nature? It will destroy first and create. Rather than that, if you want to make it saying that so create before destroy, you have this option. This option is not really useful to me. Prevent destroy. So this is something looking meaningful to me, right? So prevent destroy. Okay, can you prevent a destroy? So this means this beta argument will set to true. that will cause the Terraform to reject with an error, and our plan would destroy the infrastructure associated to the resource as long as the argument present in the configuration. No, this is not what I'm looking for, basically. Okay, so prevent the destroy. So we'll only restrict the destroy to commit. I mean, do the destroy part. Okay, but it will not ignore the resource. That's the problem. Okay, ignore changes. If any changes you made, if you want to ignore, you can just do that. So I think that additional so prevent destroy is really no use to me. Okay, now what we have to do is what I can do here is basically is a tricky part which I want to do here is so here. So this is your state file, right? So the state file is having the information of, so how Terraform is actually destroying the resource, because the state file is having the information of the server you created. The state file is having the information of the security group you created. The state file is having the information of the AMI you created. Okay. Now what I can do is I can tell to the Terraform state file, hey, Terraform state, ignore this one. Okay. I just want to ignore this. To the state file, I'm going to tell. It's not ignore, I would say, remove that information from the state file. So before doing the destroy, what I'll do, so before destroy, it is here. And what I'll do is I'll say some commands, and I'll remove this particular resource from the state file information. So if I do this, and if I do the Terraform destroy, what will happen? So only the instance and the security group only will be deleted automatically. Right? That's it. So I'm not going to do anything else. So this is the only part we will. This is a part we can make it. Okay. So how do we do that? So Terraform state, you have rm command. Okay. So Terraform state. So you have rm option. Remove instances from the state. Okay. Remove the trace of the information from the state file. All right. Now, what is the state? What is the one I want to do here is in the pipeline. So follow to that particular command. So what I want to do is edit pipeline and go to the AMI. So follow to this particular one. So what I have to do is Terraform rm Terraform state rm. So which one I had to remove? So I had to remove this one, right? So ami.ami. Okay, this is the resource name. Okay, you remove that, and you just go for namespace. So create a release. Okay, and over here, make destroy you're doing. Make destroy is perfect. Make destroy auto approve, no color. Yeah. Release.
Hi Raghu, this is Murli. Will there be no state file for the image then? Once we are removing the image.
We're not removing the image. We are removing the information. Okay, so in the state file that it had created an AMI. Okay, once it lost the information and you go and do the Terraform destroy, the remaining resources are available there. It will destroy only that much. It will leave the AMI. I'm just taking the functionality help of how it is working, and I'm just actually taking that as an advantage, and I'm using it. Yeah.
So it will have a state file, right?
It will have the state file will be there. In the state file, the information about the AMI will be removed.
Okay.
Yeah. So something is getting failure, and what's getting failure here? So make error Terraform init S3 getting caller identity. How come? I don't think so. It's a problem from our side. It's hitting Amazon something. Let's see. Yeah, so that you see this removed, this AMI, this one, and after that successfully removed one resource from that one, and after that now it is going with the Terraform destroy once again. So it is actually destruction, destroying. So only those remaining resources will be there in the state file, and those will be destroyed. And AMI is safe now, right? So everything got destructed, and you can go to the you can go to the Amazon, and if you try to refresh, the front end AMI instance is gone. But the my AMI is still there. It's cool. Okay, so this is what I just made some changes or some enhancements to my thing, and this applies to the any component, not only to the front end. So every component, so we'll follow the same logic, and yeah, so that's how we make it. And let's come back to the line. So we were talking about we were talking about how do we to say, like, so how do we set up every component, right? So on that particular process, now I think I need to make my, first of all, I need to make my VPC. So I need to make my VPC up and running. Today was it? Okay, from yesterday my VPC is running. If my VPC is running from yesterday, I would have definitely got more billing. Okay, because the NAT gateway is not free of cost. It comes with a charge, and I think I went with the additional billing. Yeah, unnecessarily. Actually happened. If I look into my bills, and you will see that, so it actually happened through, elastic load balancing. Yeah, everything was there actually. So elastic load balancer was there. And also EC2 also, you will be seeing that, NAT gateway something will be there now. Yeah, you see this NAT $1 came yesterday, from until yesterday to today. So the spot instances we are using, so this is chargeable, that's okay. And Elastic Cloud running normal instances, you are having this billing, which is fine. And I think all good. So EBS volumes, because of the disk size which we are using, we're getting this much bill. Okay, $2 so far. Yeah, so yesterday we created one certain load balancer. I think that is actually, or until now, whatever the things we have created, those might be. So I think if I just go to, so be careful. Okay, so watch every time. So the billing part, at least $2 to $3 is additional, which I made it from yesterday because of not properly deleting them. But if I go to the load balancers now, so this front end sample we created on the other day is almost on from December 17th. This is unnecessary billing, right? So almost 7 days. Unnecessary billing, I forget to delete it. Because of this, only $3 came. Okay. So be careful. Okay. So while you create the resource, don't forget to delete them. And this target group is not chargeable. It's not, no worry on this. Okay. So, all right. Come back to the, come back to the VPC part. So VPC part is already there, so which is fine. And go to the front end. And so the front end, now I can go and trigger the dev part. So using this particular AMI, so let's cross check now. So front end, this one, so is actually going to check, do the ASG. Okay, let's go to the ASG. In the ASG, so what actually you're doing in the data.tf, you're actually taking the latest AMI from my account, right? No, I'm done. So no more my account. Actually, you'll be using your account only. In your account, in your AMI, you need to find it out. Okay, which AMI I need to find it out? So let me check it out there. So if I go with data sources, so filter. So there might be a lot of AMIs, but I'm looking for a particular AMI. And the name is actually starting with $var dot component for now. And actually no stars and all. For now, it is not needed, but later probably you need it. Okay, so this is the idea. Let's see whether it picks. Okay, so here owner I mentioned self. That means in my account only there is a front end image. You use that. Previously, I'm using an image which is from my account, a common account where you have a common image that everyone is using. So now this is actually related to the front end. So this is a one change I want to make it. And so coming to the I think everything is fine. Yeah, I think this is good. Let's go and try to run this much. And then deploy the front end. So after having the AMI, so we will apply the changes to the dev environment. Okay, cool. So now what happened? So we created one auto scaling group. All right, let's cross verify that. So we created auto scaling group. Okay, so this launch one instance, yes, and you come to the instance. You got one instance running. All right, and this is under private. Okay, if you want to make it running, so you can, I mean, if you want to check it out, so you can go to the start instance, and from workstation you can reach to this particular instance. We already talked about that, right? We use workstation as a bastion node. So from one node you reach to the remaining nodes. All right, so that's the idea. So from workstation I can reach that particular instances. Okay, cool. And so that's the idea. And now you got that instance running. So now go back to the diagram. You made one component only, right? The same way you can make the other components also. I'll go with this. Okay, so you made auto scaling group and the front end. So basically these need to attach to the load balancer. So that means I want to make a load balancer related code, right? So we thought of making it in a separate load balancers are separate and a new repository. And even you cut it into two pieces because there are two load balancers. It's up to you. You want to cut it into two pieces also, you can cut it out, no issues. Okay, so you understand what you are doing. Okay, so understand what your roadmap, I mean roadmap in the sense like in future how that requirement is definitely going to be with you, like, you know, so it becomes a singular, I mean it still can be okay with a, you know, so keeping under one place, or it's not okay to keep it in one place. So whatever the reasons it is, you take the decision and based on that you make it. Okay, so there is no thumb rule that you should do this or you should do that. Okay, understand the requirements and do that all the time. And that comes to so which is Terraform hyphen load Terraform hyphen ALB. I'll make it very simple. So this ALB is I want to make. Okay, Terraform hyphen ALB ls. Okay, fine. Okay, cool. And over here, so what I need to do is I just need to have the LBs created, right? So that's where I will just say that, you know, so here public ALB and private ALB. One public ALB, so which is actually serving the front end, and one other ALB which is serving the remaining components. Okay, but not public. Okay, it's internal. Now ALB, how do I create an ALB? So here, how do I create an ALB is yeah, go to the Terraform documentation. You will find out LB. So you have LB. Now you're creating an application load balancer, yes. And so I'm going to say that, you know, this is this. And before to this is a separate one, so which it requires certain directories. Copy to be pasted here. There's them. And the state file is one. Take this. Put it here. Okay, let's carefully modify them. So this one dev, this is a state file. This is actually going to be LB dev. Okay, prod is also going to be is dev. And in the environment wise, you're going to have project name, environment, and a component. I don't want to keep it. Instance types are also not needed for this. And you have this, and it requires a variable. as a variable file, you make the variable file here, and only we require two variables. One is component and no, not component, only environment and project name. The remaining things are not needed here. So I'm just saying this much. Okay, but I require this bucket and probably the region. Okay, because I need to refer the state file. I need to refer the state file. So that's where I need these values. Okay, cool. And here it is, make file. Backend file also is fine. All right, all good. Now coming to the ALB. So what you are actually trying to make here, this is actually a public load balancer, right? So it's actually going to be, let's say, public. And so what we are going to say here is public dollar var dot project name and hyphen dollar var dot env. Okay, so hyphen public hyphen alb is what I want to do. And whether it is internal is true, no, internal is false. So that means it's a public load balancer, like that. Okay, so and it's an application load balancer, yes, and it requires one security group to open the ports to the public world. Okay, and how do you create a security group? I think you made it something here, so it just follow the same thing. And go to the load balancer, so which is security group. So allow alb hyphen public. So and var dot this is allow alb to public hyphen okay, this is what you want to do. And but actually it's actually going to be the HTTP traffic, and that's where I'm going to put 80 port, and it's actually going to be 80 port. Okay, so 80, and yeah, so you're going to allow this now. So that means you're actually going to view .id. Okay, in which subnet you need to make it? Okay, so you need to make it in this load balancer need to be using some subnets, right? So which subnets it's supposed to be using? According to our diagram, so we actually going to use the public subnets, isn't it? So if you look into the VPC design, so the load balancer is actually going to be using the public subnets. Now it needs the public subnets information. So how it can get the public subnets information from the data? So basically, okay. So data, the data.tf, and in this data, so what you are making, AMI is not needed. So VPC information. So the VPC information you are getting, and you're going to get the public subnets, isn't it? And how do I keep the public subnets in public hyphen alb? So here actually you're going to use the data. What is the data? So data dot Terraform state file dot VPC dot outputs dot what are the public underscore subnets. So this is the output I made it, so from the VPC, right? If you remember, if we go to the outputs.tf, so what are the two things? Public subnets, private subnets. And also now I'm creating a security group. This security group also should be in under this particular new VPC. Okay, so that's where I have to tell, where it has to go to. Okay, VPC ID. So I need to provide the VPC ID. So that means data dot terraform state file dot VPC dot outputs dot VPC underscore ID. So that means you need to send the VPC ID information from the state file here. So here, not state file, output file. Output, this one, so which is AWS underscore VPC dot main dot ID. Okay, that ID coming to here and will refer to here. Okay, so the logs are not needed for now. Enable delete protection also not needed. And you have some tags here. Okay, done. So I'm going to create one load balancer and I'm going to run this. Okay, so let's see how it goes now, but by through a pipeline. So now I'll just say here, here pipelines releases. Okay, so first VPC is running, let it run, and create a load balancers. Sorry, so just clone this, and you're going to call it as ALB. And so here the code is not VPC code. So here the code is actually Terraform hyphen. It's actually hyphen ALB. Okay, and over here I would like to say and go here and this one. Okay, that's it. Just click on save, click on OK. So create a release. So what are the things we had done manually? So we're just trying to put a code and running through the code. Okay. The advantage of the code is, so once you set up the one environment, and if you want to run the another environment, it's quite simple. Okay. So you'll put effort on more on the development side, and operations you will always try to minimize it. Okay. So that's the whole idea we're actually trying to approach. Cool. So the load balancer might have created. Okay, let's cross check now. So here the load balancer the load balancer has been created. Okay, so here the load balancer is done, but load balancer will work immediately? No, I don't think so, right? So you'll get 5, whatever it is, connection refused basically, right? So there is no listener. You need to add a listener. In order to add a listener, you need to forward it to some person. So sorry, forward it to some person, and that person is a target group, and there are no target groups here. Okay, so and how do I get the target group? Because you're creating the front end instance, so you need to create a target group with those instances. Okay, but it is an auto scaling group. It's an auto scaling group, right? So how about every time it is actually launching a new instances, how those particular instances will be attached automatically? So that particular part also we need to think through. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, let's see. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you here is, so here your load balancer requires a target group. Okay, so TG, and the TG is actually going to have the instances. Okay, so instances. Now, how do you get this instance? This is an auto scaling group, right? So this is an ASG, and every time you actually so create an instance, so every time can you go on manually to the target group? No, right? Every time I cannot go and manually add to the target group. So now I need to make something in such a way that, okay, this target group should be added with the new instances which created automatically by your ESG. So how can you do that? Okay, it comes out of box. You know, to do anything, you can just go and create one target group. Okay, so just create an empty target group and point that to tell that information to the ASG. So you tell that information that, hey, I have this target group, then automatically it will attach all those instances to the target group. Okay, so that's what you're going to do now. And once you have the target group, you can take it to the load balancer. So that's the idea. Okay, so you can just go to the auto scaling group, and what you need to do here is you need to go to this, and you will be having load balancing options, load balancer target groups. You have to create one target group and you want to point to this. Okay, how do I create a target group now? Now target group is a part of target group. I want to keep it as a part of auto scaling group only. Okay, so because the target group should be created, and along with that, target group should be created, and along with that, okay, so the target group should be attached to this load balancer also. How do I do that? Okay, let's take a look now. So resource AWS underscore LB underscore target group, LB target group. I also don't remember. Let's go and refer the Terraform documentation. Now we're going to define the target group. That's it. And here is our target group. And also I want to tell this. TG var.component hyphen var.env hyphen tg target group. Okay, so it has to reach to which port? 80 port. But is every application is an 80 port? No, right? So our remaining components like catalog, card catalog, all those are running on 8000 or 8080 or some port it is running. So now I need to parameterize this. So how can I parameterize this? I come to the ASG and I will say that, so port is equal to, it actually goes as 80. Since you are actually sending the port, that comes as a variable to the ASG. So then variable port. Okay. So then it comes to var dot port. Okay, and what protocol it is sending? Okay, HTTP protocol, which is fine. And what is the VPC ID? So we already just made that particular. In which VPC you need to go with? So it has to go to dot VPC underscore ID. Okay, cool. You're going to create one target group now. So this target group you need to tell to the and also so every target group you create, actually you're going to tell the health check, isn't it? So if you go to the target group, so the target group configuration, if you remember, it actually becoming healthy. Okay, so the node has to, I already told you the load balancer always look into the targets, whether those are good or bad, then only it will send the traffic. If it is bad, it will not send the traffic. So how can you do that? How can it do that? So while you're creating the target group, you have to specify the health check. So where it has to check. Okay, so that health check also I need to configure, and so health check. So health check is actually going to be something like this. Okay, that's a health check, and health check is actually is something like this. Now I want to put that also, so I will just say that so health check. And health check, and then path is actually which path I need to hit it up. So since it is a front end, we need to hit the slash actually, but for something else it is something. So that's where var dot th I'm going to put that. So, and I'm going to take it as a variable. Okay, and finally it comes to auto scaling group. So the health check for the front end so should be validated to slash. Okay, that point I'm telling, and so that will go and create this. All right, fine. So the target group part is done. Now this target group, whatever you created, you have to tell that information to your auto scaling group. Okay, so let's go back to the auto scaling group configuration, or you can find out any load balancers. Okay, load balancers. So I'm also not sure what are the values you can give. Let's see. We go to the Terraform. Now search for load balancers. Load underscore balancers. So load balancers, a list of elastic load balancer name to the auto scaling group name. So only valid. No, I don't want this. Basically, I want target groups. Okay, a set of target group ARN used with application or network load balancer. Yes, this is what I'm looking for. So target group ARNs. So target group ARNs. Okay, it requires an ARN. ARN is nothing but Amazon resource name. It generates in every resource, it generates some unique format. Okay, so that's where the ARN come into picture, and that is actually going to be AWS underscore LB target group dot tg dot ARN. Okay, not IDs or something. It's an ARN. You just do this now, then the target group will be created and it will be attached to the auto scaling group, and auto scaling group will attach its instances to the target group. Okay. Now let's go to the front end. So since there is a modification on the front end and I don't want AMI, ignore the AMI, and I will say only dev side you make the changes. Or if you are feeling bored of this one, so you can make one pipeline for so whole environment setup. So what you can do is, so I will just create a release, not here, sorry. Destroy is there, right? So I can just say that it's a clone of this one. So all the infra setup for Dev. Okay, so create. It's a pipeline I'm making. So this is the order I'm making. So the VPC side, so you're actually saying Terraform apply, destroy. Actually, it's actually not destroy, it's actually going to be apply. Environment variables. Okay, but this is a VPC. Let me add the source code of VPC also. 53. And go inside this Terraform apply advanced. Go inside VPC. Yeah, done. And whereas front end, run it on front end, and it's actually going to be done. So after this, probably what you need to do is you just need to do the ALB part. Okay, so ALB, save, and I'll say okay. So if I run this also, everything can happen in one shot. So yeah. So the dev changes are done. So that means let's go to the target groups and try to refresh. So there is one target group came into picture, and go to the target groups and go to the targets, and actually it is saying unused. Of course, it's not attached to any kind of a load balancer. Now I'll go to the load balancer settings. I will go to the load balancer ALB, and I'll go to the load balancer public-ALB. So now what I need to do, I need to add some listener to the load balancer. Okay, so LB listener. Okay, how do you find it out? So LB, and now you'll go with the listener. All right, so you make one listener. So I'm just saying that you go with this. All right, so this is you can call it as front end, no issues. And LB, so it's actually going to be, what is the LB? Where you created the LB here, dot public dot ARN. Okay, this is the first thing. Okay, so and port it has to listen on is only just 80 port, and is actually going to be called as a HTTP, not HTTPS. If it is HTTP, you don't require this SL policies, you can ignore that. And the default action is forward. So where is the target group? So the target group coming from front end, right? The target group is coming from front end, and the front end should expose that information. So that where the outputs comes into picture of this guy. So let's go to, sorry. Let's go to the file outputs.pf. All right, and I'll say the output. And what is the output now? Like, let's say, so front end underscore so tg underscore arn. Okay, and which is AWS underscore which actually is being created here. Okay, so which is actually being created in the ASG. So this target group name, so that actually going to be using here. And so here it actually sends the information. So output, so tg, okay, target group underscore arn is nothing but AWS underscore lb target group dot tg tjrn. Okay, so you take this particular tjrn and send it out to module.asg. This one. Okay, you're going to take this. This is the one. I have to go to my LB, so which is actually going to be the data. But this coming from the data.tf, so you go to the data.tf. So now you have only VPC data store. Now you'll go with the front end. This front end, you will say here it as front end. Okay, so here it's going to come up as front end dot front end dot outputs dot this one. You take this ARN. Okay, you send that information. Now who all need to run? So my front end should run and my ALB should run. So I can just go ahead and use the main pipeline, which I made it now. Infra create. So if I run this, everything will run, and it things makes faster also. Okay. Let's see. So the VPC changes are done. If any, there is nothing. There is no harm also in running. Okay. So now the next one goes is front end. Raghu, are you on mute? Yes. My bad. Yeah. So what was the problem was, I cloned from this one. I cloned the front end actually ALB from front end. The code is still pointing to the front end. So that's where front end only it is running 2 times. The ALB changes were not really applied. I just made those particular change, and yeah, so I'm applying it now. Now the load balancer will come into some changes. So one added. Now go back to the load balancer. So try to refresh. So you can see this is actually coming to this one, and you can target groups. Go to this. Okay, it's still initializing, so let it come to healthy. And let it come to healthy, then we can access the load balancer from public. Okay, it is coming as unhealthy, and I know why it is coming as unhealthy. Okay, so why? Because these, the instances, whatever you made, basically the auto scaling group, if you go there, and so the launch template, you are nowhere attaching your security group. Okay, so that means this front end instance, whatever you are having in the instances, if you go there, it's really not opening any kind of a port. Okay, so which it is listening on, right? So that particular port is actually not really open to anyone. So that's where you will see the security group. You will see the default one. Okay, default one will not have any ports open. So that's one more problem we have now. Okay, we need to fix that. So how do I fix that? So here to the auto scaling group. So and VPC security groups. I think it should be coming from the launch template only. Okay, so it's actually going to come to the security group names or VPC security group IDs. Okay, VPC security group IDs, you need to create one security group and you need to attach to that. Okay, so how do I do that? So I'll just, the security group, you have some content already somewhere. Yeah. Take this and go here. This one, this is for allow hyphen component. Yeah. And allow hyphen allow hyphen component. So which is for $var.env hyphen sg. All right, so this is what I want to make. And what is the port number? You require to open 22. Of course, I need to open 22, but 22 I should not open actually to the whole world, right? So the so the VPC, to the only to the VPC and as well as my peer VPC, wherever I'm making the peer to that VPC I have to make it, and also to my internal only. So it should not go to the public. So 000 is a wrong thing. Okay, that's where I need to correct that information as well. Okay, give me 1 second. So yeah, this is the one. And what I was saying, yeah. So port 22 should be open only to the two VPCs. Okay, so one is the peering VPC. If I go back to the diagram and I show you, only within this VPC from anywhere to anywhere it should connect, and this from default VPC where you are using a workstation and connect to that, right? So either you open to this VPC or only to this machine, anything is okay. Okay, I'll open to the VPC. Now how do I do that? So again, I need the information to do that. Okay, so this VPC, first of all, this also should go under VPC underscore ID. So in which VPC ID you have to make it is data dot Terraform remote state file dot VPC dot outputs dot VPC underscore ID. Okay, I have to put it in this VPC, and the CIDR block is actually this VPC should have some CIDR, and that information also I'll come from here only. So it will come from here. Output VPC underscore CIDR is actually going to be AWS underscore VPC dot main dot CIDR underscore block. Okay, is the one. So and output of default underscore VPC underscore ID. Okay, this is default underscore VPC underscore ID, which is AWS underscore VPC. No. We already hard coded that in variables, I think, if I'm not wrong. Did I make the peering connection so far? No. Okay, I need to make the peering connection. So that part is missing. Okay, so that part is missing. So yeah, let's do that. So I think manually I have shown you how the peering works, but from the code we actually didn't made it. All right, so we'll make that. I will go with just for time being. Okay, we're just working on front end. It's okay, it's not needed, but still, yeah, let it make it. So here I'll make it as peering.tf. Okay, now I'll just go with peering Terraform. So there won't be much complexity because the peering connection I'm making is in the same accounts, so you will not see much complexity. But if you are having different accounts, then you need to do some workarounds there. Okay, that's the only thing. Not complex, I'll call it as some work, so the work wise you need to make it accordingly. Okay, so this is what it is looking for. And also you have an option, since you're having acceptor and requester on the same account, you can automatically so make this DNS resolution is true I'm making, and also at the same time auto accept something you will be there. There is auto accept. Auto accept is true. Okay, so since I have both the guys actually in the same account, so we'll make the things in a much better way. Okay, so acceptor allow VPC DNS resolution, and requester also should resolve the DNS. So that means whenever I create an instance, okay, so this comes actually, okay, it actually comes as this DNS name. So this DNS name also should be resolved from the other VPC you're telling. All right, so which is really not needed, but still it's okay. Now the peering owner ID. So you require owner ID of the peering connection. So and peering connection over ID. Okay, let's take a look of what you need to give here. Let's go and read the documentation. So this is optional only. The AWS account ID of the owner of the peer VPC defaults to the account ID that AWS provider is currently connected to. I'm using the same account. This is unnecessary. That's an optional. It is telling. And peer VPC ID. So what is the first VPC ID? So which is going to be some main.id. Okay. And who is the so VPC ID of the what is the VPC ID of the default one? So that I will hard code in the information env. So this is actually going to be default underscore VPC underscore ID is equal to what is the default VPC ID? I'll go to the VPC and I'll find out that information. So this is the default one, and I will take the VPC ID. Okay, you get that. And default underscore VPC underscore CIDR is equal to, so what is the CIDR of that one? And this is the one. Okay, so yeah, and I will go to the peering.tf, so which is actually going to be dot VPC underscore var dot default. No, there is no such variable, right? Yeah, default underscore VPC, or in fact, if you go with ID, so it has to better keep it as ID and go to the peering ID. You give that. Okay, so this creates one peering connection. Okay, all right. Now let's see. So VPC auto trigger is there, so only for VPC it is already running. Okay, so let's wait for that. So the editor is the key factor here. So if you don't have that IntelliJ, basically, you have to type everything. So IntelliJ is actually helping you in auto-filling the things. Okay, so that's a major advantage of that editor. So there is some problem. So peering connection, there is some issue came out. So what is the error? Invalid peering connection state, DNS hostname disabled. Okay. So first of all, in my VPC, I didn't enable this DNS part. Okay. So this is really not really needed. We don't use this. So I will just ignore that particular part. Or else what you have to do is in the main VPC, whatever you have created. So here actually you need to give DNS, okay, enable DNS support. Okay, is equal to true. You have to do this and enable DNS host names. This also you have to make it as true. Okay, so these two things, if you make it, then it was okay. So just keeping in proper indentation. That's it. So if I do these only, those two options would have worked actually. I didn't enable these two options, so that's fine. Okay, so just click on one more. I push the change, it will automatically come to VPC would have triggered automatically. There's auto trigger option. Cool. So the VPC peering connection would have been done. Let's go and verify that peering connection. So now you go to the peering connection. So there is a peering connection which is active. Okay, cool. Which is being done with this with this, right? So you're done. All right. So now peering connection is done. So the routes should be enabled. Okay. In the routes also, you should allow that particular peering connection to be added. So that means my new VPC can reach to the default VPC over the peering connection. My old VPC should be reaching to the new VPC over the peering connection. So that route you have to add. Okay. So that routes.tf, you are actually adding one route here. So to both the cases, I need to add another route, and that route actually is going to be the CIDR block is equal to something. And here it actually going to be is a peering connection, VPC peering connection ID. Okay, so VPC peering connection ID. So you have to give this connection ID. So which is AWS underscore peering connection dot ID. You can give this. Okay, and so this is the default VPC, and that's where it actually going to be the default underscore VPC CIDR. To reach to the default VPC CIDR, you reach over peering connection ID. That's what you're telling. And the same thing should be going to this guy also. Okay. So yeah, either it is public or private, both the subnets. I think I can reach to those particular subnets using this. All right. But this is the idea. Now the same information should be given to the other VPC also. The other VPC also, you have one CIDR. I mean, one route table basically. So you can go with the default route table. There will be one route table. You see this. So to this route table also, you better add one. You see this. The other day we added one route table that actually went to backhaul because the peering connection has been deleted. Just delete this. To this route table also, I need to add that information. So how do I do that? This is a route table. And this also, that information also I'll add it here. So default underscore RT route table, and this is equal to this one. I'm hard coding the information, and or else you can use the data and refer the information. Anything is okay. And the routes.tf. So I want to add a route actually. I need to add only default VPC route table. You need to add not the complete route table. Need to add only to the one route to the existing route table. So that's where resource AWS underscore RUP. You just need to add the route, and the route table ID is actually going to be var dot default underscore VPC default underscore P. Okay, so this one, and variable default underscore RT, isn't it? So it's default underscore RT, default underscore RT, go to the routes, default underscore RT. So what is that? Okay. Default route table route. And what is so what is the thing I have to add here? So basically I need to add, what is the route I need to add? Let's find it out. So how to add a route? So this is the way you need to add to route. So destination block, VPC peering connection ID. So the destination block and VPC peering connection ID. Which is AWS underscore VPC dot main dot CIDR block. Okay, and the peering connection ID is so AWS underscore VPC peering connection or the peering ID. So this route also I need to add it. Okay, so this leads to the complete the peering connection setup. Let's wait for that once again to apply. So with the help of pipeline, I'm reducing my burden of executing, the command. Basically, I'm telling the pipeline you auto trigger, it's triggering automatically. And also it can be reduced, or it can be, so I mean, not reduced. It can be also, rather than auto trigger, you can also make a manual trigger also. It's up to you how do you want it. but yeah, can be done. Okay, cool, it got applied. So that means if I go to the route table, so if I go to the routes, if I try to refresh this, I'm expecting a new route table, a route entry, and it's active, all good. Now come back to the, so the outputs basically, and this needs to send the information. So outputs, so default underscore VPC underscore ID is var dot default underscore VPC underscore ID. That one output I'm sending, output. So default underscore VPC underscore CIDR is basically var dot default underscore VPC underscore CIDR. So these are the outputs I want to send it out. Now I'm sending these particular outputs, and I'm ultimately going to access them from the load balancer or the target group. Somewhere actually we're doing it. Yeah. So this is the one we want to make it. So yeah. So we're actually making the two CIDRs available. So what are the two CIDRs now? So one is this one, VPC underscore CIDR, okay, so dot and data dot Terraform remote state file dot VPC dot outputs dot default underscore VPC underscore CIDR. Okay, to do these two places I need to make it, and whereas only for SSH basically, but for this one, for port 80, I'll go only for so port 80. So port 80 I would like to open only to my so main VPCs here. Okay, so this much is fine, and this particular security group I have to give it over here, so which is AWS security group dot allow component dot id. Okay, so this much information I'm giving into there. So once you do the security group allow, so then your firewall will open the 80 port, and your load balancer will look into that 80 port, and if it is healthy, it makes it yeah, it makes healthy. Okay, so let's wait. Go to the infra page. Let release. I don't want VPC, but yeah, front end. So a little time up, but still, let's complete this, and we will be at least one part will be done. Okay, so this is done. Now if I go to my instance and try to refresh this once, my instance is stopped actually. Because 1 hour if you don't log in, it will automatically shut down, right? But the security group is not. Yeah, the new server is coming up because the old server went down, kind of thing. But the old server also, you're still getting the old security group. Why so? Let's go to the launch templates. Yeah. So let's use the launch templates, and you got the, so second version of the launch template, which is having the new security group, but still the instances are actually with the old one only. Okay, auto scaling group. If you go there, so the or if you go to the instances, the launch. So if you take a look into this instance, so you go to the tags, so you will see still it is running with the launch template 1. Yeah. So so I'll talk about this particular bit. Okay, so this needs to get updated also. How to get it updated, we probably take it in the next session. But yeah, so in the next session, at least if you rerun everything, okay, I will destroy everything now. But if you rerun everything, so what we're going to expect is we expect the, so everything in a working fix, at least the front end, the web page, we should see it on the load balancer. So that's the goal. And I think we're all done. We just recreated it goes fine. But this template, how to make it, so apply to the latest version. So we'll see that later again. Yeah, I think that's all for today. I think we're almost time up. But yeah, so since you know that, so from tomorrow, so there's a long weekend. So we'll be meeting Mac on next Wednesday for Indian folks. For US folks, it's going to be on Tuesday. Okay, so the next 5 days will not be having sessions. Okay, I think that's all from my side for today. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, all right, no questions. Probably we can take it into the next session. And yeah, I wish you a Merry Christmas for everyone. So please enjoy the vacation, at the same time utilize the time as well. Okay, if possible. Okay, utilize the time to practice the things, because yeah, so the practice is the only thing which can help you in learning this particular course, right? I've been telling you the same thing all the time. Right, okay, so thank you. So see you in the next session. Bye, good day.